The academic council chamber was the most impressive room Minho had ever seen. The ceiling stretched up so high it disappeared into darkness. Floating platforms held council members from different species. Some platforms were filled with water. Others glowed with heat. One seemed to exist in complete darkness with only 2 glowing eyes visible inside. Minho stood in the center of the room on a circular platform that slowly rotated. He felt like a criminal on trial. Beltara stood beside him, which made him feel slightly better. Nari sat in the observation area with other students who had come to watch. "Student Minho," a voice boomed from above. The translator identified the speaker as Council Chair Vexton. "We have reviewed the incidents involving your unorthodox medical interventions. We have questions." "Yes, Council Chair," Minho said. He tried to keep his voice steady. "First question. Do you believe you know more about medicine than trained professionals with decades of experience?" "No, Council Chair, I do not." "Then why did you ignore established protocols?" "Not once but twice?" Minho took a breath. "I did not ignore them because I thought they were wrong. I ignored them because they were too slow. Both times, the patient needed help immediately. Following all the steps would have taken too long. Speed is less important than doing the procedure correctly," another council member said. "With respect," Minho said carefully, "speed is important if the patient dies while you are being correct." Murmurs filled the chamber. Some sounded angry. Others sounded thoughtful. "You used a primitive adhesive material," Vexton continued. "This material is not designed for medical use. It is not sterile. It is not approved by any medical authority. Why would you use such a thing on a living being?" "Because it works," Minho said simply. "Humans have used duct tape for almost 200 years. We use it to fix machines, buildings, pipes, clothes. It is strong. It sticks to anything. It holds under pressure. Why would it not work on wounds?" "Because wounds are not machines," a council member snapped. "No," Minho agreed. "But the principle is the same. Something is broken. Something is leaking. You need to stop the leak and hold the broken parts together until proper repairs can be made. Duct tape does that," Beltara spoke up. "Council members, if I may. I have analyzed both instances where Minho used his methods. In both cases, the outcomes were successful. The training dummy was stabilized faster than any other student's work. The Threxian patient survived and has made a full recovery. These are not failures. These are successes. Successes achieved through luck," Vexton said. "Were they?" Beltara challenged. "Or were they successes achieved through different thinking? We have designed our protocols to be perfect. But perfection takes time. What Minho has shown us is that sometimes good enough right now is more valuable than perfect later." The council members argued among themselves. Minho could hear fragments through the translator. Some wanted him expelled for breaking rules. Others wanted him studied like an interesting specimen. One suggested putting him in a zoo, which Minho hoped was a translation error. Finally, Vexton spoke again. "Minho, do you understand that if your methods had failed, the consequences would have been severe?" "Yes, Council Chair." "Do you understand that we cannot allow every student to simply ignore protocols and do whatever they want?" "Yes, Council Chair." "Then what do you suggest we do with you?" Minho had not expected that question. He thought for a moment. "I suggest you teach both ways. Teach the protocols for when there is time and proper equipment, but also teach field methods for emergencies when there is no time. Teach students to think about what the patient needs most right now, not what the book says they should need." The chamber went quiet. Minho worried he had said something wrong. Then slowly some of the council members began making sounds. His translator identified them as approval noises. "Interesting," Vexton said. "You are suggesting we incorporate Deathworlder medicine into our curriculum?" "I am suggesting you incorporate practical emergency medicine. It does not have to be Deathworlder medicine, but yes, humans have a lot of experience with emergencies. Our planet is dangerous. We get hurt a lot. We have learned how to fix injuries quickly with whatever we have available." Another council member spoke. "This would require creating an entirely new course. It would require testing and validation. It would require admitting that we do not know everything," Beltara interrupted. "It would require accepting that beings from dangerous worlds might have valuable knowledge that we lack." "I believe we should do exactly that." More arguing. More discussion. Minho stood and waited. His platform kept rotating slowly. He saw Nari in the observation area. She gave him a small thumbs up, A human gesture she must have learned just for him. Finally, the council reached a decision. Student Minho, Vexton announced, you will not be expelled. Instead, you will be placed on academic probation. You must still learn and follow standard protocols. However, we are also creating a new special course. Adaptive Trauma Response in Resource-Limited Environments. You will assist instructor Veltara in developing this course. You will teach other students about human field medicine methods. Minho blinked. I am going to be a teacher? A teaching assistant, Veltara corrected, but she sounded amused. I will still be the instructor. But yes, you will help teach. Additionally, Vexton continued, we are requesting a full analysis of this duct tape material from Earth. If it proves as effective as initial tests suggest, it may be added to emergency medical supplies across the Galactic Medical Institute. Minho tried not to laugh. The idea of duct tape being official medical equipment was ridiculous. His grandfather would never believe it. The council dismissed him. As he left the chamber, students crowded around. Some wanted to touch the roll of duct tape he still carried. Others wanted to ask questions about Earth and Deathworld medicine. One alien student asked if it was true that humans could survive having their arms cut off. Minho had to explain that no, that was not true. They would definitely die without immediate help. Nari pushed through the crowd and hugged him. You did it. You actually changed their minds. I did not mean to change anything. I just wanted to help people. That is what makes it work, Nari said. You were not trying to prove anything. You were just doing what seemed right. Over the next few weeks, Minho's life changed dramatically. He still attended regular classes and still had to learn proper protocols. But now he also spent time with Veltara planning the new course. They discussed what to teach, how to teach students to think quickly, how to work with limited supplies, how to make decisions under pressure. Students started asking him for advice. At first it was just human students like Hyun and Jiwon, who wanted to know more about field medicine. But then alien students started coming too. They were curious about Deathworld thinking, about human methods, about why humans always seem to find strange solutions to normal problems. Minho tried to explain. On Earth, things go wrong all the time. Storms, earthquakes, accidents. We cannot always wait for perfect solutions. We have to fix things with what we have right now. A piece of tape, a bit of wire, whatever is available. That sounds exhausting, one alien student said. It is, Minho admitted, but it also makes us creative. We learn to see possibilities instead of just problems. Kel, the Threxian worker, came to visit Minho one day. Their arm was fully healed now. Thanks to proper surgery after Minho's duct tape stabilization, they brought a gift, a brand new roll of duct tape specially imported from Earth. I wanted to thank you properly, Kel said. The doctors told me I would have died if you had not acted so quickly. They said you saved my life with this strange tape. The tape helped, Minho said, but it was not magic. It was just a tool used the right way at the right time. Still, Kel said, you saw what needed to be done and you did it. That takes courage, especially when everyone is telling you that you are wrong. After Kel left, Minho looked at the new roll of tape. It was the expensive kind, better than what his grandfather had given him. But it was still just duct tape, simple, basic, practical. 3 months later, the new course had its first class. 20 students from different species filled the room. Veltara stood at the front with Minho beside her. Welcome to Adaptive Trauma Response, Veltara began. In this course, you will learn methods that may seem strange or primitive. You will learn to work without advanced equipment. You will learn to make decisions quickly, even when you do not have complete information. You will learn to think like a Deathworlder. She gestured to Minho. My teaching assistant will demonstrate techniques from his home world. Some of you may find these techniques disturbing or incorrect. I encourage you to approach them with an open mind. Remember, the goal is not perfection. The goal is survival. Minho stepped forward. He held up a roll of duct tape. This, he said, is where we start. The students leaned forward, curious and attentive. Nari sat in the front row, already taking notes. Minho smiled. She had become his first official student assistant, helping him prepare demonstrations and translate human medical concepts into language other species could understand. Medicine is about helping people, Minho continued. Sometimes we help them by following every rule perfectly. Sometimes we help them by breaking the rules and doing what needs to be done. Minho dropped to his knees beside the Threxian worker. Up close, the injury looked even worse. The entire forearm had been crushed and torn. He could see damaged muscle and exposed bone. The blue blood was flowing fast, too fast. The worker's breathing was shallow and quick, classic signs of shock that Minho had learned about in his basic training back on Earth. "Nari," he called out, "I need antiseptic. The real medical kind, not just water." For a second, he thought she would refuse. She stood frozen, her face pale with fear or anger or both. Then she grabbed a bottle from a nearby medical kit and ran over. She did not hand it to him. Instead, she knelt down beside him. "If you are going to be stupid, I will help you be stupid correctly," she said in Korean. Minho felt a rush of gratitude. He took the antiseptic and poured it liberally over the wound. The Threxian made a sound of pain. Good. That meant they were still conscious, still fighting. "Talk to me," Minho said to the worker. "What is your name?" "Kel," the Threxian gasped. Their translator was still working. "Arm hurts. I know, Kel, I am going to help. This will hurt more at first, but then it will feel better. Trust me." Minho had no idea if Threxian biology was similar enough to human biology for this to work. He had no idea if their blood clotted the same way. He had no idea if pressure bandaging would even help. But he did know that doing nothing was not an option. He looked at the wound carefully. The damaged skin was hanging in flaps. Underneath, he could see the tear went deep into the muscle. This was not a simple cut. This was a degloving injury, one of the worst types of trauma. Back on Earth, this would need surgery. But here now, he just had to keep Kel alive long enough for proper treatment. "Nari, I need you to hold this skin flap in place," Minho said. "Like this." He showed her how to position the torn skin back over the exposed muscle. She hesitated for only a second before putting her hands where he indicated. Minho noticed her hands were shaking, but she held firm. "Good. Keep it there." Minho found sterile pads in the medical kit. He placed them over the wound, creating layers of protection. Then he pulled out his duct tape. Around him, the medical staff watched in silence. Some looked horrified. Others looked curious. Feltara stood nearby, her crystalline body completely still. "This is going to look weird," Minho said to Kel. "But it works. I promise." He began wrapping the duct tape around the arm. He went slowly, making sure each layer was smooth and even. Too tight would cut off circulation. Too loose would not stop the bleeding. He had to find the perfect pressure. His grandfather had taught him this when they fixed a broken water pipe. "Feel it," the old man had said. "You cannot measure it with numbers. You have to feel when it is right." Minho felt it now. He wrapped the tape carefully, working from below the wound up toward the shoulder. This would help push blood back toward the heart instead of letting it pool in the damaged arm. He was not sure if Threxians had hearts like humans, but most species seem to have some kind of central pump for blood. 1 layer. 2 layers. 3 layers. The silver tape covered the sterile pads completely. It looked ridiculous and primitive. But Minho could feel the pressure was right. He sat back. "Done. That is it?" one of the medical staff asked. "That is your treatment?" "For now, yes. It will hold until you can do the proper repair work." Everyone looked at the monitoring equipment attached to Kel. For a long moment, nothing changed. Then slowly the readouts began to shift. The blood pressure started to rise. The bleeding indicators dropped. The shock markers decreased. Kel's breathing became slower and deeper. Their eyes focused. "Better," they said. "Feels better." The medical staff member who had protested earlier checked the readings again. "Impossible. The bleeding has stopped. Pressure is stabilizing. How?" Feltara moved closer to examine the duct tape bandage. "Pressure distribution is nearly perfect. The wound edges are properly aligned. The bleeding has been controlled." She looked at Minho. "How did you know the correct pressure?" "I felt it," Minho said. "You cannot always measure everything. Sometimes you have to feel what is right." A senior doctor pushed forward. "This is temporary, though, yes?" "We still need to do proper treatment." "Yes," Minho agreed immediately. "This is just to keep Kel stable. They will need real surgery, real medicine. But now you have time to do it right instead of rushing." The doctor nodded slowly. "Field stabilization. I have read about this concept but never seen it practiced. You sacrifice perfect treatment for immediate stability, then apply perfect treatment when circumstances allow." "Exactly," Minho said. Nari was still kneeling beside him. She had blood on her hands and her expensive clothes. She looked at Minho with an expression he could not read. "You actually did it," she said quietly. "You saved them." We saved them, Minho corrected. You helped. Medical staff carefully lifted Kel onto a floating stretcher. They would take the Threxian to a proper surgical suite now. As they moved away, Kel raised their good arm toward Minho. Thank you, Deathworlder, Kel said. Just Minho, and you are welcome. After the stretcher left, the cargo bay became quieter. The other patients were being treated. The emergency was ending. Minho stood up and realized his legs were shaking. The adrenaline was wearing off. Veltara approached him. Several other instructors were with her now, along with what looked like administrators. They all studied Minho like he was an interesting specimen. That was highly irregular, one administrator said. That was effective, Veltara countered. That was dangerous. He used non-approved materials. He had no authorization, if the patient had been harmed. But they were not harmed, Veltara interrupted. They were saved. By a student who saw what needed to be done and did it while we were following procedure. The administrator looked like they wanted to argue more, but another emergency call came through. A patient in the medical wing needed immediate attention. The group hurried away, leaving Veltara, Minho, and Nari alone. Am I in trouble? Minho asked. Veltara's light patterns shifted to warm colors. Trouble, perhaps, but you are also becoming something of a legend. The student who saves lives with duct tape. There are worse reputations to have. I did not mean to cause problems. The best changes always cause problems, Veltara said. Problems make us think. They make us question. They make us better. She paused. The academic council wants to meet with you tomorrow. They have questions about your methods. Will they expel me? I do not think so. I think they will be too curious about what else humans can teach us. Veltara turned to leave, then stopped. Minho, what you did today was not perfect medicine, but it was good medicine. Sometimes that is more important. After she left, Nari and Minho stood in the quiet cargo bay. Cleaning robots were already removing the blood from the floor. I am sorry I yelled at you, Nari said. After the practice exam, you were right. The rules are not always right for every situation. You were right too, Minho said. We do represent Earth. We should try to be professional. Professional with duct tape? Minho smiled. Why not? It worked. Nari started laughing. It was the first time Minho had heard her really laugh since they met. My mother is going to die when I tell her I helped perform field medicine with tape. She sent me to space to bring honor to the family. You did bring honor. You helped save someone's life. With duct tape, Nari repeated. She laughed again. Only humans. Only us. They walked back toward the student quarters together. Minho's roll of duct tape sat in his pocket, lighter now but still ready. His grandfather had been right, it really did fix everything. The rest of the class passed in uncomfortable silence. Students finished their treatments and stood awkwardly at their stations. Nobody knew what to say. The instructors had never covered what to do when someone completely ignored every rule, but somehow got better results. Veltara dismissed them without another word. As Minho packed up his things, including the roll of duct tape, he felt eyes on him from every direction. Some students looked curious. Others looked disturbed. One alien was taking pictures of the duct tape with some kind of device. Nari waited for him outside the classroom. Her arms were crossed and her face was angry. What were you thinking? She demanded in Korean. I was thinking about stopping the bleeding, Minho said. You made us look bad. You made humans look primitive and stupid. Do you know what they are going to say? They are going to say we do not understand real medicine. They are going to say we are just barbarians who tape things together. Minho felt his own anger rising. The wound was fixed. The dummy is fine. What is the problem? The problem is that you did not follow the rules. The problem is that we are guests here. The problem is that every human who comes after us will be judged by what you did today. Maybe the rules are not always right, Minho said. Nari's eyes went wide. How can you say that? These beings have been studying medicine for thousands of years. They have saved billions of lives. They travel between stars. And you think you know better because you have some tape? I did not say I know better. I said the rules are not always right for every situation. Sometimes you need to be fast. Sometimes good enough right now is better than perfect in 5 minutes. That is Deathworlder thinking, Nari said bitterly. That is the kind of thinking that makes them afraid of us. She walked away before Minho could respond. He stood in the empty hallway and felt suddenly very tired. Maybe she was right. Maybe he had made a mistake. But the wound had been fixed. Did not that count for something? Over the next 3 days, Minho became famous. Not good famous. Strange famous. Students would stop and stare when he walked past. Whispers followed him everywhere. His translator caught fragments of conversations. That is the human who used primitive adhesive. I heard he spit on the wound. First, Deathworlders are so strange, he had not actually spit on the wound. But the rumor had started somehow, and now everyone believed it. Minho tried to correct people, but they seemed disappointed when he explained he had just used water. Veltara called him to her office on the 3rd day. Her office was strange, all crystals and light with no furniture that Minho could see. Apparently she did not sit Minho, she said. Her voice was serious. We need to discuss what happened. Am I being expelled? Minho asked. Expelled? No, confused. Yes, Veltara moved closer. Light patterns shifted inside her body. I have been teaching medicine for 60 years. I have taught thousands of students from hundreds of species. I have never seen someone completely abandon protocol and achieve positive results. So I did not fail? The evaluation is complicated. You failed to follow procedures, but you succeeded in the primary goal, which is to stabilize the patient. I have submitted your case to the academic council. They are still deciding what to do. Minho nodded. Can I ask a question? Of course. Why are the protocols so complicated? I counted 37 steps. Why not just stop the bleeding first and do the other things after? Veltara was quiet for a moment. The protocols were designed to be universal, to work for all species and all situations. When you try to make something that works for everyone, it becomes complex. Every step has a reason. Every procedure addresses a specific need. But what if you do not have time for all the steps? Then you do as many as you can in the correct order. What if the correct order is too slow? Veltara's light patterns changed to colors Minho had not seen before. That is the question no one has asked before. We have assumed that following the protocols was always best. Your results suggest that assumption may not always be true. Before Minho could respond, an alarm went off. It was loud and urgent. Red lights flashed in the hallway outside. Veltara moved to her door panel. Emergency at the cargo bay. Multiple casualties. She looked at Minho. Come. You are about to see real trauma medicine, not just training dummies. They ran through the station. Minho had to push hard to keep up with Veltara, who seemed to glide at high speed. Other medical staff joined them, all rushing toward the cargo bay. Students, including Nari and several others from class, followed behind. The cargo bay was chaos. A massive loading machine had malfunctioned and crushed several workers. Medical staff were already there, trying to help. Minho saw at least 5 injured beings on the floor. Triage, Veltara commanded. Assess and prioritize. The medical staff moved efficiently. They checked each patient quickly, marking them with colored tags. Green for minor injuries, yellow for serious but stable, red for critical. One patient received a red tag. They were a Threxian, a species Minho recognized from class. They looked almost human but with blue skin and longer arms. One of their arms had been badly hurt. The skin had been torn away, exposing muscle and bone. Blood was everywhere. We need the cellular regenerator, a doctor shouted. It is being used on the other critical patient, someone else called back. Then get the nanogel. We need to stabilize this wound now. A medical staff member ran to get supplies, but Minho could see the problem. The Threxians' blood was flowing too fast. Their eyes were rolling back. They were going into shock. By the time the staff came back with supplies and followed all the protocols, it might be too late. Minho looked at Veltara. She was coordinating care, directing staff to different patients. She did not see what Minho saw. The Threxian was dying right now, this second, while everyone followed proper procedure. Minho's hand went to his pocket. The duct tape was still there. It was always there. He made a decision. He ran forward to the Threxian patient. Student, get back, a medical staff member said. I can help, Minho said. You are not qualified. This is not a training exercise. I know, but they do not have time. The staff member was about to argue when Veltara's voice cut through. Let him try. Everyone turned to stare at the instructor. She looked at Minho directly. You have 2 minutes. After that, we do it the proper way, whether you are done or not. Minho nodded. He pulled out his duct tape. Around him, he heard gasps and protests. Nari's voice rose above the others. Minho no. Do not do this. Not on a real patient. But Minho was already moving. He had 2 minutes. That was all he needed. The next week passed in a blur of studying. Nari was serious about being perfect. She made Minho memorize every step of every procedure. They practiced on virtual simulations until Minho could recite the protocols in his sleep. Nanogel application must be 0.5 milliliters per square centimeter, Nari would say. 0.5 milliliters, Minho would repeat, even though he thought it was silly to be so exact. Medicine was supposed to help people, not measure things down to tiny amounts. On the day of the practical exam, the classroom felt different. All the regular desks had been pushed to the sides. In the center of the room sat 12 medical stations, each with a biosynthetic dummy lying on a table. The dummies looked disturbingly real. They had skin that looked soft. They had blood vessels that Minho could see under the surface. They even seemed to breathe slowly. Veltara stood at the front of the room. Her crystal body caught the light and threw rainbow patterns across the walls. Today you will demonstrate basic trauma treatment. Each team will receive a different injury scenario. You have 20 minutes. Your dummies are equipped with full sensor arrays. I will know if you skip steps or apply incorrect pressure, or fail to maintain sterile conditions. She began reading names. Students moved to their stations. Minho noticed that all the alien students looked calm and confident. They had done this kind of thing before. Nari and Jiwon, Veltara called. Nari looked disappointed. Jiwon was a small alien with 6 arms and excellent grades. Nari would do fine without Minho. Minho and Hyun. Minho looked around. A male student waved at him from across the room. Hyun was human from Seoul. Minho had seen him in the halls but never talked to him. Hyun always seemed too busy studying. But when Minho got to the station, there was only one dummy. Hyun shook his head. Sorry, I got reassigned. Instructor said you are working alone. Something about different skill levels needing different challenges. Minho felt his stomach sink. Working alone meant no one to catch his mistakes. Veltara appeared beside him. Your scenario is more complex, Minho. I hope you have been paying attention. She tapped the dummy's arm. Immediately, a long gash appeared on the forearm. Deep red blood began flowing out. The dummy's face twisted in pain. Simulated arterial bleed, Veltara said. Begin. Minho stared at the wound. It looked bad. Really bad. Blood was already pooling on the table. Around the room, other students were calmly opening their medical kits and following the procedures. Nari was already on step 3, her movement smooth and practiced. Minho opened his kit. Inside were all the tools Veltara had shown them. Nanogel in precise tubes. The cellular regenerator that looked like a silver pen. Sterilization spray. Biosynth bandages. Gloves. Everything was organized and clean and exactly what the protocols required. He reached for the gloves. Then he stopped. His hand moved instead to his jacket pocket. His fingers found the roll of duct tape. His grandfather's voice echoed in his head. Duct tape fixes everything. This was stupid. He should follow the protocols. He should do exactly what Nari had made him practice. He looked over at her. She was doing perfectly. The instructor would expect him to do the same, but the blood was flowing fast. The dummy's readings showed blood pressure dropping. In a real emergency, speed mattered more than perfect procedure. He knew that. He had seen it back home when his uncle had gotten hurt in a motorcycle accident. The paramedics had not worried about being perfect. They had worried about being fast. Minho made a decision. He grabbed the roll of duct tape. He also pulled out a small water bottle from his bag. The room was so quiet that everyone heard the tearing sound when he ripped off a piece of tape. Heads turned. Students stopped working. Even the instructor's crystal body seemed to freeze. Student Minho, Veltara said slowly. What are you doing? Fixing the wound, Minho said. He knew he sounded more confident than he felt. The medical supplies are in front of you. Standard protocol requires— I know, Minho interrupted. He winced. You were not supposed to interrupt instructors. But this is faster. The room went completely silent. Nari's face had gone pale. She was staring at him with an expression of pure horror. Every other student had stopped their work to watch the human do something crazy. Minho ignored them all. He poured water over the wound to clean it. Then, before he could think too hard about what he was doing, he pressed the edges of the cut together with his bare hands. The dummy's synthetic blood was warm and sticky. He held firm pressure for 10 seconds, 20, 30. Then he wrapped the duct tape around the arm once, twice, 3 times. He made sure it was tight enough to hold but not so tight that it would cut off blood flow. His grandfather had taught him that when they fixed a broken pipe in the basement. The whole thing took less than a minute. Minho stepped back. His hands were covered in synthetic blood. The duct tape looked ridiculous wrapped around the dummy's arm, all silver and clearly not medical equipment. "That is not protocol," an alien student said. Their translator made them sound shocked. "That is contamination," another added. He touched the wound with bare hands. "No sterilization." "Deathworlders," someone muttered. Veltara moved closer to Minho's station. Her crystalline face was impossible to read, but Minho got the feeling she was not happy. "You have failed to follow any standard procedure. You have introduced contaminants. You have used non-medical materials. She stopped. Her eyes, or whatever she used to see, focused on the dummy's readouts. The bleeding had stopped. Completely. The wound edges were pressed together perfectly. The blood pressure was stabilizing. The dummy's pain responses were decreasing. Veltara touched a panel on the table. Numbers and graphs appeared in the air. She studied them in silence. Around the room, other students craned their necks to see. "Run diagnostic again," Veltara said. Her voice sounded strange. The numbers appeared again. Same results. The wound was stable. More than stable. When the instructor pulled up comparison data from other students' work, something impossible showed up. 3 of the nanogel treatments were already showing small gaps at the wound edges. The synthetic tissue was separating slightly, the way it would in real flesh under stress. Minho's duct tape wrap showed no separation at all. The pressure was even. The bleeding had stopped faster than any other treatment in the room. "How?" Veltara asked. It was not an angry question. It was genuine confusion. Minho shrugged. "Duct tape is strong. It sticks to anything, and pressure stops bleeding. This is not complicated. But the contamination. You used non-sterile materials. You touched the wound directly. Humans do that all the time," Minho said. "We are not sterile. Earth is not sterile. Our bodies know how to fight infections. A little dirt never killed anyone." That was not exactly true, Minho knew. Infections could be serious, but he also knew that humans were tougher than these aliens thought. An alien student raised a manipulator limb. "What is this? Duct tape?" Minho pulled out the roll and held it up. "This is duct tape. Humans use it to fix almost anything. Broken things. Loose things. Things that leak. I have seen people fix cars with this. Fix houses. Fix boats. Why not fix wounds?" The class stared at the simple roll of silver tape like it was alien technology. Veltara was still studying the readouts. "This should not work," she said quietly. "By all standards, this should have failed, but it had not failed, and everyone in the room could see that." Minho stood outside the massive glass doors of the Galactic Medical Institute and tried not to feel small. The building stretched up so high that he could not see the top. Ships flew past in the distance, their lights blinking against the purple sky of Station Viridiac 7. He had been in space for 3 weeks now, but everything still felt strange and new. He pushed through the doors. The inside was even more impressive. The floors were made of something that looked like white marble but felt soft under his feet. Beings of all shapes and sizes moved through the wide hallways. Some walked on 2 legs like him. Others floated. One creature looked like it was made entirely of blue smoke. A small device in his ear translated their conversations into Korean. The voices overlapped, talking about cellular regeneration and quantum medicine and things Minho had never heard of before. He checked his datapad again. Room 447B. Advanced Trauma Response. He was going to be late on his first day. Minho started running. Several aliens stopped and stared at him. Humans apparently did not run in public spaces here. He did not care. Back home in Busan, he ran everywhere. Old habits were hard to break. He found the room and slipped inside. 20 pairs of eyes turned to look at him. Well, he assumed they were eyes. Some of the students had things that might have been eyes. Others had sensors or stalks or crystals that glowed. "Ah, our second human has arrived," a voice said. It sounded like wind chimes. The instructor stood at the front of the class. She was tall and made of some kind of clear crystal material. Light moved through her body in rainbow patterns. "Please introduce yourself." Minho bowed slightly the way his grandmother had taught him. "I am Minho. I am from Earth. I am here to learn." "Welcome, Minho. I am Instructor Veltara." Please take a seat next to Nari. Minho spotted the other human immediately. Nari sat in the third row, her posture perfect and straight. She was Korean too, he could tell, though her clothes looked expensive and new. Everything about her screamed, "I belong here." She gave him a small, tight smile as he sat down. "You are late," she whispered in Korean. "Got lost," Minho whispered back. "Do not get lost again. We are representing Earth. We need to show them we are professional." Minho nodded, though he thought she was being a bit too serious. They were just students, after all. Beltara continued her lecture. Her voice filled the room without seeming loud. "As I was explaining, humans come from what we classify as a Class 12 death world. This is the highest danger classification we have. Earth's gravity is crushing. Its atmosphere is corrosive. Its wildlife is aggressive. Its diseases are numerous and creative." Minho frowned. Earth did not seem that bad to him. Sure, there were tigers and bears and the occasional typhoon, but people managed just fine. Most species in this room, Beltara went on, would require full environmental suits to survive on Earth for even a short time. The radiation alone would be fatal. This is why humans are so fascinating to us. You have evolved on a world that is actively trying to kill you, and yet you thrive. A student in the front row raised a tentacle. "Instructor, does this mean humans are naturally more resistant to injury?" "Not exactly," Beltara said. "Humans are fragile in many ways. Their skin tears easily. Their bones break. They bruise and bleed and scar. But what makes them remarkable is their healing ability and their tolerance for damage. A human can lose a significant amount of blood and survive. They can fight off infections that would kill most of us. Their bodies are designed for emergency repair." Nari sat up straighter, looking proud. Minho just felt uncomfortable with everyone staring at them. "This semester," Beltara said, "we will learn proper medical protocols for treating trauma across different species. We will start with the basics. The Galactic Medical Consortium has developed a universal treatment system that works for most known biology types." She tapped a panel on the wall. A hologram appeared showing a wound on some kind of purple flesh. "This is a standard laceration. Watch carefully." The hologram showed hands applying something that looked like clear jelly to the wound. Then they used a small device that glowed blue. Then they wrapped the area in white bandages that seemed to disappear into the skin. Then more steps and more. Minho counted 37 different actions before the treatment was complete. "Each step is essential," Beltara said. "The nanogel creates a sterile environment. The cellular regenerator stimulates tissue growth. The biosynth bandages provide support while preventing infection. This is the standard we all must meet." The class took notes. Minho wrote some things down, but he kept thinking about how complicated it all was. Back on Earth, when his cousin Doyen had cut his hand badly on a fishing boat, they had just washed it out, pressed it closed, and wrapped it tight. Doyen had been fine. "Next week you will begin practical examinations," Beltara announced. "You will be paired randomly. You will treat simulated injuries on biosynthetic dummies. These dummies will respond exactly like living tissue. You must follow all protocols exactly, or you will fail." After class, Nari caught up with Minho in the hallway. "We need to study together," she said. "I have all the textbooks downloaded. We should meet every evening to practice." "Sure," Minho said. "But it does not seem that hard." "Just follow the steps," Nari grabbed his arm. "Minho, you do not understand. Everyone here is watching us. We are the first humans in this program. If we fail, they will say humans are not smart enough for advanced medicine. They will say we are just violent Deathworlders who only know how to fight and break things." "We are not violent," Minho said. "I know that. You know that. But they do not know that. We have to be perfect." Minho looked at her worried face and sighed. "Okay, we will study together. I promise." Nari relaxed a little. "Good, come to my quarters at 6. Bring your data pad." She walked away quickly, already reading something on her own pad. Minho watched her go and felt a weight settle on his shoulders. He had come to space to learn about medicine and see new things. He had not expected to carry the reputation of his entire planet. He touched his pocket, feeling the familiar shape of the roll of duct tape he always carried. His grandfather had given it to him before he left Earth. "You never know when you will need it," the old man had said. "Duct tape fixes everything," Minho smiled. At least he had brought a piece of home with him. He did not know yet that the duct tape would change everything.